ahead and get started. And this is budgets, building them and monitoring them. And we'll be talking about both the basic accounting budget and LifeCycle budget. If you're not familiar, the basic accounting budget is strictly an accounting budget. Pulls out of historical, and then you can make changes on that historical data. Where LifeCycle budget combines accounting, crop audit, and smart feeder and breeder data. You build on actual historical data, and then you can go forward from there with planned purchases, planned plantings, and sales and stuff like that. There's so much. I didn't realize these were going to be so small on this slide. For some reason, they look tiny. Try to make it bigger. I finally found a zoom option here. So the basic accounting uses the build command to load the current company's actual data into the budget screen. It will include any divisions and centers you want to use and can create as many budgets as you want as long as you give them different names. You'll probably need at least one budget that includes the entire operation, but you can divide it by divisions and centers. You can move around the screen and change the numbers to reflect what you expect in the coming years. You expect some months to show a negative balance on the net change line. In those months, you'll have to make entries showing increased borrowing or withdrawals from savings in order to balance the budget. Once your budget is correct, you would select Save and name the budget. Budgets can be then printed or emailed to lenders as needed. You can recall the saved copy at any time to make changes. The ledger account summary is the only report in FBS that will compare your budget value to actual results. Since the budget files are stored in Microsoft Excel format, XLS, which is older format of Excel, if you prefer, you can always open your budgets in the Excel program. You can use the Transaction Plus Budget module to create a spreadsheet that matches your chart of accounts. You can load the spreadsheet into Excel to incorporate your own formulas and linked worksheets. You leave your modified budget file in your FBS data directory, and as long as you don't add new lines to your Excel spreadsheet, the ledger account summary report will continue to read and compare your budget numbers to actual. So what that means is if you don't change your ledger accounts in the left-hand column, that you can still compare it even if you have different kinds of formulas in the background. That doesn't work as well, the zoom, so I'm going to zoom out. The LifeCycle budget is an interactive planning and performance monitoring platform designed to tightly integrate your FBS management information system. With LCB, you can evaluate not just a single budget scenario, but multiple projections and plans with forecasts that roll through multiple years. Projections can be compared to the actual numbers as they are updated in the actual accounting records. There are several points you can monitor this. It's cash flow, pig flow, feed consumption, income statement, cost analysis, sales performance, growth rate, and death loss. The process of the LifeCycle budget. You gather your actual or known expenses. You create a production plan. You have input purchasing plans. You plan your overhead costs, have a marketing plan, a financial plan, create your budget, review, reforecast above plans. In the LifeCycle budget, there is some must-have data and some optional data. You must have, in Transaction Plus, you must have ledger accounts, centers. Optional will be prior year's accounting data. In crop audit, you must have fields and crop centers. Optional will be specific inputs. Smart feeder, you must have a rate of gain, feeding centers, completed the planning module, and then optional will be specific feed ingredients. In LifeCycle budget, a scenario is what you build everything off of. You can, some uses of the scenario will be baseline, to simulate major weather and marketing events, compare strategic plans, year-to-date, and partial budgets. You always begin with the scenario 1. You should not change your list from year to year. Scenarios stay from year to year, and you just build on those and roll them forward. Your template is a screen within the LifeCycle budget, a module where you fill in appropriate ledger accounts and then build your budget. After the template is complete, you can start building your budget. It's where you tell the system what are your liabilities and your expenses and your interest accounts. You build from actual to get historical data, and you create a cash flow based on historical. So usually you would build this off of the previous year and then make adjustments off the previous year's actuals. I'm going to get this bigger. Here are the different types of records you can enter into LifeCycle budget. They can be crop operations and harvest, where you apply your inputs. These are expected plans for applying inputs. Purchase crop inputs. Crop usage, so buying and selling of corn, beans, wheat. Your loan report, or loan entries. And this is where you track your principal amount, your payments, and your payoff schedules. General inputs for unlinked purchases. Your feeding requirements, your crop inventories, beginning bank balances, crop input inventory, crops transferred to feed usage, general input inventory, feed requirements inventory. And then we have the reports that work with LifeCycle budget, which are the income statement, balance sheet, ledger account summary, crop input inventory, crop inventory report, and the ingredient summary. So that's an overview. Now we'll go into the actual product. So here under budgets we have accounting. It's a very basic budget. They'll do the work of a basic budget here. We create a new budget. Click OK. I choose to build. I can choose when I want to build this off of, if it's January through December of 16, or I can do 01/2015 through 12/2015. I'm going to use all my centers and all my divisions. And then it puts in actual numbers here each month. There's not a lot there, but there is some there.
So let's just use the previous year's data. You can't use like a rolling average of the previous 2 years.
Nope, it's just the actuals in that month for that ledger account. You could start from scratch if you wanted to throw those actuals into Excel, come up with those rolling averages and put them in. But this is what it starts with. From here, I can click into individual cells and say that was an unusual month in April of 15, so this year I'm only going to do 5,000. Change it there. Or you can do a percent change. You get a percent here, increased value or decreased value, and you can choose all rows, this row, income rows, expense rows, assets, liabilities. You can choose which row. So I can do that row, 5% increase, and it's, I'm sorry, I did 5% decrease, and it's decreased that whole entire line by 5%. You can click it anywhere that's a 0 and type any number based on your expectations. You scroll down here. You see now you have your expenses. That was your income up top. Now you have your expenses. Works the same way for changing them. You can also, if you want to repeat this, if you think your machinery rent for every month is going to be the same, click repeat, and it'll repeat that number clear across. Get down through all of your expenses here, and you have your assets with your bank balance. So you start with your first bank balance as of January 1st, then this is the beginning balance of February, March, April, and go on and so forth. All your asset accounts and transactions that will have conspired or you feel like are going to conspire within those. Loan payments on your liability accounts. Your equity, and then you have your net change for the month. So it has a beginning bank balance, your funds into the bank, funds out of the bank, ending bank balance. Pretty basic, and again, this is just in Excel, so you can open it in Excel and do whatever you need to do in Excel. As long as you don't change the chart of accounts on the left, you can always open it back in FBS as long as you save it in XLS, which is 97 to 2000 format, I believe. I choose Save As to name this, so I could call it my 2016 base. I can choose to zero, suppress, or not, and exit. It's a pretty basic budget there. So we have two different sides of the spectrum. We have that basic one, and then we have LifeCycle budget. It starts out very similar. We have scenarios. So if I was going to call Scenario 2 2016 base, save it, then I build the budget. I'm going to use that 2016 base scenario, and I want to get bank balances, loans, unlinked income and expense accounts for the year 2015. I'm just going to double check my template here, make sure my liability accounts and my expense accounts for interest, my unlinked income and unlinked expense accounts are all correct. And I build it. It tells me it's finished. Pick my scenario for my cash flow budget, and it should, I didn't like anything there. Didn't build it like I thought it would. I must have something wrong on my template here that I'm not noticing. My expense accounts are overlapping my interest accounts. It doesn't like that. So it should be 500 too. Liked it a little bit better there. So this is not going to bring any of your integrated ledger accounts across. So none of your crop sales, none of your animal sales, none of your feed purchases, nothing like that. Input purchases, those are all linked. So none of them are going to come across. And that is because, in theory, it's going to completely be somewhat different from year to year based on animal flow and based on crops you have planted or switching fields and rotations and stuff like that. So none of that comes across, and we don't have any of our loans set up yet, so there's no loans to come across yet. So that's when you start putting in, first make sure you're always in the right scenario. And I always start with loans because to me they're the hardest. I like to get them over with. Okay. So here's where you start typing in all of your loans. If you're studying LifeCycle budget, you want to have your ending loan balance as of 12/31 of the previous year. And you need to know what your principal amount was that you've paid, and you make your origination date then the 12/31 of the previous year. You have the option of amortized or manual payments. You type in who it is, the principal borrowed, what the beginning balance was as of the origination date, which was the 12/31 of the previous year. How many months are left from the origination date going forward? You could put the absolutely beginning origination date if you wanted to and type it all in, or you can go from, like I said, the 12/31 date of the previous year. So if you still had 3 years left, it would calculate your final due date and your interest rate. Oops, didn't like that. 2.25. Asks how many payments you make per year. Tells you total number of payments left. Gives you a first pay date. You can change it, but it defaults the first of the 30th of the first month. But you could change that. You pick your principal account. And your interest account. If there's a balloon payment at the end. And then because I picked amortize, it figures my principal payment and my interest payment per month there. You pick a division, a center if you have a center for your loan. I don't think I do on this, but we'll see what I have in here. I'm just going to put 0. I type in the loan number. Put a short description. Okay. If I save that and run my cash flow budget again, I now have the operating principal coming out under liabilities, and I have my interest coming out in expenses up here. So as you add loans, you'll see how that adds on to that. Okay, if we're talking about purchasing crop inputs, usually you would put in your, apply your inputs to your plan for applying first. So I would go through here, pick when I was going to do all my applications. So we're going to pick inputs. I'll pick a field. I didn't like that, but that's fine. With the inputs, you have to use macros, so you have to have your macros set up in crop audit for applying your chemicals. So I'm going to call this first pass chemicals. And your split, I have 100% split, we'll say that. And so up here at the top, it popped up. It's going to put in 41.67 application units of Atrix and 100 of Authority and 656 of Corvus, and applied some seed there and all that. So I go through each of my center field assignments and assign all the inputs I wanted for the year. Let's make another one here. Okay, let's save that. Now, this isn't going to put anything on the budget yet. But I could go here to reports and under crops and my input inventory, choose use LifeCycle budget, choose a scenario I'm basing it off of. And this is going to tell me how many units of everything I need to purchase. So right now, of the Atrix, I would need to purchase 44 gallons, 105 of the Authority, 694 of the Corvus. I can do the same thing for seed to estimate how much seed I need to purchase. And then once I did that, I would go back into my budgeting menu. And I would do a purchase crop inputs. And you go through and you'd start purchasing your inputs. What did I say I needed? I'll go 47,000. Estimated price per unit. And save that. Now that estimated purchase of those inputs will show up here under my seeds and planting for the month that I budgeted that I was going to purchase that seed. And that's how it's going to work for doing each of those individual types of inputs. So you build your base budget. This is your average year. And then from there, you would create new scenarios. I'd want to clone this one maybe. So we're going to do source is 2. I'm going to clone it to 3. And click clone scenario. And click OK. It says it's complete. I'm going to call this drought. If I could spell drought, which I didn't, right? I don't think. Anyway, we're going to do it next slide. Good, because I misspelled it. I know I did. So then I pick up my scenario for drought. I could pick my cash flow here, my cash flow budget. Yes. Okay. Right now, it mimics my base budget. I can right-click on any line that has a number in it, though, and I can adjust it. I can either add in, adjust manually, like a number or quantity here. Obviously, seed probably wouldn't be affected, but I had that picked. But your harvest is probably would be affected. But you could change it here by percent, plus or minus percent. So if I thought, I don't know, for some reason there was a drought, I thought my seed cost was going to go up 25%. It's going to increase everything in this schedule by 25%. And I can save it. That would do month by month. But if I thought the whole year was going to be affected, for one reason or another, I could right-click on the total line. It's going to bring up every single entry in that line for that ledger. And I can either decrease it or increase it by 1%. So if I thought I was going to be in a drought, so I really wasn't going to repair anything, so I'm going to take all my repairs down by 25%. Okay, wants me to pick a, there we go. It brought everything down 25%. Okay. So you get to make all those kind of budget entries on any of your general inputs, any of your feed, any of your crops, harvest, anything like that. We could do we'll do a budget record input on this scenario for harvest. Oops, close that. I did something wrong here when I do crop. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I don't know why it's not letting me put that in right now. Just okay, there it goes. Sorry. So I put in my harvest. Choose harvest. 207, 11. I know. Pick your marketing center. Put in your expected yield, expected unit price as a value of that. That's now on the cash flow budget. Oh, it's a harvest. It wasn't a sale. It's an expected harvest. Sorry, you can see it on the report though. Crop inventory report. Again, I have checked the box to use my LifeCycle budget here at the bottom. That's my drought. And if I had the right commodity set up, it would have showed up there. I don't think I had a commodity set up correctly on that one, but you could show here what was going on and if your expected crop inventory sitting there based on your entry there. Some of the other reports you can use to monitor your life cycle budget is income statement for just your dollars. You choose columns to include. You can do actual versus life cycle budget, or you can do just life cycle budget. I'll do it again against my base here. Your actual is in the first to the current period and current year to date. And then your life cycle budget, you have period and year to date here. So you can see like machine rents, my actual is 250, I budgeted 400, so I'm under budget on that line. But repairs, machinery and equipment here, I'm over budget. I only budgeted 300 and my current is at 6,750. So you can keep up on where you're at in your budget and how you're comparing to actual. I was talking about macros a minute ago. When you have to have macros set up for the crop side of things, you have to have those macros set up here. So this is where you put in, you can put chemicals, seed applications, field operations, whatever you would use. So you need these macros for applying chemicals and for harvesting. And these ought to be set up before you go in and put them in to life cycle budget. You have to have marketing centers, like I mentioned. So you have to make sure you have your cost profit center, a marketing center set up. Field operations, you need some field operations to be able to do that as well. So we did this number 1, harvest. I think that was my problem. It doesn't even have to have a value, but it has to have a macro here. Assign it to a center of some sort here with a general farm. These macros have to be set up ahead of time though. For feeding and breeding to work, for feeding especially, you have to have the smart feeder planning area in place and have your rate of gain tables in so that it will, from those, it will estimate your feed usage and put that into feed expense. It will also, from that, go ahead and plug in those numbers as expected sales throughout the year based on the smart feeder planning. And purchases as well. When it empties the barn and expects another fill based on your animal capacity for that center, it will go ahead and place a purchase for those animals and put that in on the life cycle budget. So life cycle budget is much more interactive than the accounting budget, and you're really able to, it's a great way to plan or look at, if you're considering an equipment purchase or land sales, any kind of major transactions, you can really pull in those scenarios, copy the scenarios, and then tweak them how you think might be affected. Obviously, if you're buying land, the increased, loan costs on the land, the increased inputs in the land and the fuel and whatever other charges you might have on that land, you can put those in and see how that changes your cash flow. And then when we're looking at that, one thing I didn't point out in the budgeting menu is this is your expected cash every month. So in January, I'm positive 114. If I didn't have any other income in January, though, I'd be under 14,000 in February, and keep going on. And this is my ending cash as a 12/31 of the year. It rolls in the next year. And it can be a multi-year you keep the same scenario and just create the next year and the next year and next year, going out further and further on those scenarios. Is anybody in here currently using LifeCycle budget at all? Dave? Do you have any questions, Dave?
Yeah, just repeat that again, going into the next year. How do you roll that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, so if I was going to do 2017, I'd type 2017 here. Make sure I have the right scenario selected. And then I click on rollover. So it creates a new file for 17. It says it's rolled over successfully. So now I go into the year 17. And this is my my liability is still here. I don't have any of, I have to re-put in all my new expected input purchases, all my expected, crop sales, all that new. Now that's going to come over. That'll have to be new inputted for 17. And you go forward for that. It brings all your loans over. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so if one of my loans, if I had a loan that should have been, finished paying, you do that 2016. You got to change the budget year here. If we went to loans and add one. Well, it's you should only roll over once, so this might not work exactly like I shouldn't be doing this probably like I am, but test.
Is LifeCycle budget a separate module, or is that in transaction costs?
It is. If you had AFRA, you get it. You have LifeCycle budget. If it took the place of AFRA. If you didn't have AFRA and any of our older versions, then it is a separate module. It's a little both, depending on your situation. That's not right. So okay. Oops. So this is a manual payment. It's kind of a pain. But you keep putting these in until you pay off the loan. No, if you go to empty line and you hit enter, it should go down the next one. I hit tab instead of enter, and enter should go to the next. Should go to division instead of center. If you're on an empty line, it should enter out after it goes through the first empty line, I believe. To look at. It's been a while since I've been in that, so I have to look at that. When you see on this one though, I have that new notes I put in there. It has a $250 payment, has an ending balance down here, or how much I total paid in that at the end of 16. If I roll into 17, I don't know if I have to re-roll over. I think I do. look at the cash flow. That loan will come over as just a balloon payment that I put in February of 17 based on the first loan schedule. So the loan schedule goes from year to year to year. But as the budget, when you put that in there, the new loan, there is something funny when you put in those manual payments. I'm trying to remember what it is when you hit those, if it's center or enter or tab, and I don't remember. Yeah, it's enter to go the second empty line, and then it's tab, and it should come out. But it is a weird combination. You have to enter and then tab. So, go on to that. So getting that first one set up with all your loans is time consuming, and then setting up your crop macros if you have crops. Yeah, it can be.
Looking back up to the loan information stuff after it came out of payment window, then it went back up, so I need to tap all the way down through that, and then
back into that schedule.
If you don't hit enter if you don't hit tab from the date on the empty line, it will do that.
Say that again.
You have to be on the date of the empty line.
Date of the next
If you go to amount and then hit tab, then it'll take you up to the date.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to call it, a bug, I guess. There. Yes, Mike.
I missed a step on the crop budgeting. I saw you pulled the macro up and it had the chemical listed in the rate per acre. Then when you went to put the budget in, where do you put acres in there? So so that particular macro might be just for corn spraying, so you would just put in your total corn acres
Yeah.
on that macro.
Yeah. So it has a rate per acre. So then if I was on 5/1 of 17, I was doing an input.
What if you're picking?
Any center field combination.
Okay, center. And you're picking a field too.
And then it puts in the acres, and you can override that, or you can take the acres there that it puts up from the field, and then you pick them.
Down to the field level.
And then you pick up the macro, and then it multiplies those that macro times your acres, the rate per acre on the macro times those acres, and then you pick your split, and then it picks.
So no macro, no budget.
No macros, no budgets. You have to have macros set up ahead of time. So there is a lot of stuff that has to be set up ahead of time. We do have some pretty good documentation of how to, what order to do things in. But there is that side of it. And like I said, for smart feeder, you have to have that planning in place, smart feeder planning in place to go forward. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the life cycle or the basic budget?
So if you're just starting with this and you got your information in the previous software, can you import that into this and start building a budget from there? As long as you set things up.
You couldn't import into life cycle budget, no. Into the accounting, regular basic accounting budget, yes. Yes. You could take that budget you had and hand type it into life cycle budget if you wanted to, but you couldn't import it in.
So could they build a template and call it 2013 actuals or something? And I guess they could build.
You can build off of any historical data you have in the system. So you could, if 2013 was your average year in FBS, you could build off of that.
You could build up your budget based on that.
Yeah.
So if we think the next crop year is going to be more like 09.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does FBS know to read certain files? Does it have to be named a certain way, or should they just start building a budget and then kind of You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Can you just build a budget in Excel and FBS will read it, or is FBS, it has to be built in FBS so it knows to...
Oh, for a basic accounting budget, you could,
Yeah, basic accounting budget.
as long as you had your ledger accounts out of FBS, you could build the budget in Excel
Yeah.
and bring it into FBS. It's all it maps off of, though, is the ledger account.
Okay.
You can only do budget versus actual with the life cycle budget on basic accounting.
The basic accounting one you can. It's just it's no. It's the ledger account summary report that does by has a comparison. You pick. You can do any of them, I think, and you pick a comparison file. Oh, must not be that one. Which one is it? Year to date here and budget, and you pick a comparison file. I don't know what I named it. Whatever you named your. So this is a little different from the income statement, but the ledger account summary is similar to an income statement. But this is the only one you can compare your basic accounting budget to. I'm gonna try that. Okay. So you see, it looks very similar to an income statement. You have your period amount, your budget amount, percent of budget, the variance actual to budget, and this kind of budgeting numbers to your. This is to your basic accounting budget. Yep. Any other questions?